everyone. As we mentioned from the top of the hour, we have the amazing guest for you guys, all the way from UK, and his name is Ousman Touray, and of course, he's in tech. Welcome.
Hi, Ousman.
Hey, Ousman.
Can you introduce yourself to our audience before we get into this amazing conversation that we have for them today, which is innovation tech in Africa?
Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Ousman Touray, founder of Phioneers, and I'm an ecopreneur, which means that the current and future projects I'll be working on are related to solving economic, environmental, and social issues in developing parts of the world, starting with Africa.
And can I say, I love your accent, by the way.
Thank you.
It's so fake with that English accent.
Okay, Amy, before you hate, let's have you do an English accent quickly before we get into this conversation.
Don't try me, darling. Don't try me.
Like Amy's like Nene Leakes trying to do an English accent. Don't try me, darling. That's so Atlanta and Houston. Try again.
My British accent will come out before the end of the show. It comes out. It comes in and out.
Okay, I'm glad you admit it didn't come out.
You know what that's called? It's called multiple personality disorder.
Helena and Ole, give us something with the English accent. Let's see what you guys do.
Ole will suck.
I've been watching a lot of Breakenton lately, Your Highness. So it's really wearing on me. Like it's really, but I don't want to do the accent just yet. I want to perfect it. So on the next segment, I'm coming through with an accent. Just watch.
Okay. Now. So on that note, we're gonna go ahead and move on to this amazing conversation that we have for you guys, and that is, as we mentioned, innovation technology in Africa and how we can use it to benefit us, and of course also look at the downside that it brings to our lives. So stick around for that conversation. So Ousman, can you tell us a little bit about what you and your colleagues are doing in Africa, or at least working on in terms of innovation and technology?
We looked into the main challenges that Africans are facing at the moment, and the very basic needs like housing, electricity, and water, and we're looking into solutions for those challenges or those issues. In terms of the housing, we're looking into more sustainable ways because, as you know, there's a dire need for development of infrastructure, but we are clearing tons of land. We're chopping down a very high volume of trees every year, and we're taking, but we're not giving back. So we're trying to find solutions, but also provide something that people can afford, like millions of people earning only under £5 a day, a single day. So they can't afford your standard house that you'd want to build, or your dream home. So those are the things we're looking into, and it's really exciting.
Well, thank you all for being here. If you guys actually don't know, me and Oz went to the same school in Dallas, so we're Dallas own and I. Listening to what you said sounds like something that is very much in need because people are really, really struggling. Every single time I go back home, which is almost twice a year, it feels brand new. Seeing people living in absolute poverty and living at less than £5. You're saying £5, but I think it's actually less than £5 a day. And it makes me wonder every single time I go back, how can they do it and how are they even doing it right now? So this is a very, very great initiative.
I heard you when you said about infrastructure and housing, but there's one thing that you said that was really important is about the natural resources. When we say natural resources, people always think of oil and gas, but they tend to forget about the plants, the trees.
Yeah.
Every time they break down a tree, nothing is replaced. And then we see what's going on internationally with global warming. Are you guys having plans in place?
It's a very, very, very important point. And we see tons of developers in Africa. And the sad thing is they don't consider planting a single tree. And that one tree makes a big difference. We also have a large number of people, for economical reasons, they're chopping down trees that are like thousands of years old. The significance of like the baobab tree and the red mahogany tree, the way that they stop erosion and they keep the water table intact, for example. And for those economical reasons, someone could just chop the tree up and sell it for, something that's even worthless, that won't even, provide food for a week. So we also need to make sure that the damage on the environment is reduced, but also you're creating ecosystems where your plants, your animals, and development are going hand in hand.
In a nutshell, we need to do better. We need to do more, right? Obviously. But we do know that Africa has a lot of natural resources that we can all use in terms of innovation in tech to basically improve our livelihoods, such as what Oz was just talking about, housing, in terms of electricity and water, basic needs. These are fundamental needs that we are still behind when you think about it, because some of the things that in America that you wake up every day to think about is electricity and water, food sustainability. These are not the main issues that a lot of people think about, at least the middle class. So I'm interested to hear what you all have to say about this.
I think it's a very important aspect or fact that he mentioned, especially about the cutting down of the trees, and Africans most of the times not really using the resources for what they are meant for and all of that. But I think something that we also need to applaud, especially the generation that we're moving into Africa right now, is the fact that so many of our Africans are getting educated. And sometimes I think we forget that mainly these things were done because of a lack of understanding, a lack of education, and so forth. Now, coming to housing, there are so many necessities that are just essential. When you wake up, it's there. And in Africa, especially housing, this is something that, first of all, our people don't understand the importance of just actually owning a property or just the need of buying a house, for example.
There's also like a cultural thing as well where for many families, they would prefer to, or they find themselves in big family homes or big family compounds. And as we slowly transition into people wanting their own space, I think people are going into renting. And this is where you see families of 5, 6, 7 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment because they can't afford something that's bigger. There's a big housing issue. And, you know, according to the UN, we're expecting that 50% of the world's population growth over the next 30 years will come from Africa. So Africa is going to have more people because we have a younger population and they'll, you know, reproduce and have kids. So we need more houses, but the people can't afford those houses.
The next 10 years, Africa is going to be kind of like the next big growth market. So in terms of some of the things that your company is working on, can you touch more around like the affordable housing?
As we all know, like hundreds of years ago, Africa was a hub for engineering and development and everything. Like we built pyramids, we built houses, we had everything we needed before we started trying to be like the Western world, as in building with cement and concrete and, you know, steel and stuff. We're basically looking into how it was done before with a twist of like modern technology to make it work, and look at how we can provide something that's affordable for the people earning the lowest income. So we're working with universities and professionals in that field to come up with a solution that would work for everybody.
That's great. That's great. And as far as what you just mentioned, what people need, the basic necessities, then that brings us to electricity. That's a huge problem in Africa across the board.
I think before we even touch into electricity, I think one of the most serious things that we kind of sometimes do neglect is good roads.
Yeah.
Without these roads, we don't have access to none of this development. You'll be going to like a $20 million house area, and then to get there, I'm telling you, your car would be trashed out before even getting to that point, okay? And then now you think about people who have to leave areas like Bruceby and all that stuff, having to leave to go to work in Banjul. It takes people sometimes like 3 hours to drive to the other side of the country. We should take them like 20 minutes to get there. Okay, now jumping into electricity, no development. I feel like the reason why most companies are failing and most people are afraid to even start a business in Africa is because of the lack of electricity. Think about the hotels. Think about factories, right?
Yeah.
If I was to live here today and open up a big factory or even open up a big hospital, these are things that you have to put into consideration.
To touch on energy, Africa is blessed with sunlight.
Yeah.
You know, we're blessed with sunshine. We have in Gambia, there's the river. There's wind. So there's so many sources of, natural resources that we have, and we could produce energy for nothing. The people involved in setting up these systems and the training that they'll get, that will create employment for people as well. So I see no reason why we should be using fuel and the big generators that are not sustainable, because you're importing tons and gallons of petrol and all other things, and it's just not sustainable. The moment we start looking into sustainable solutions, then we'll move forward quicker.
And it's right there. The natural resources are right there. The solar, I mean, it's incredible how much light that we have, daylight that we have. And I think Akon started an initiative that was really, really remarkable for Africa. And I don't know if he made it to Gambia, but I think you guys just said he did. Unfortunately, I don't think they accepted the initiative. What are some of the countries that benefited from this? And what are some of the countries that are actually doing really well in terms of innovation and technology?
So in terms of like some of the African countries that are doing really great, they have something going on for them. So one of them, I will say, is South Africa. Like South Africa is leading in terms of like innovation, right? They're ahead in like the payment innovation in things like biometric, like basically like creating ID cards, etc. So the reason why South Africa is doing so well ahead of a lot of the other African countries is because the frequency of their electric outage is the smallest in most of the other African countries. So that's one thing that has it going for them. And I think like Oz was mentioning, you have to have like the proper infrastructure. Another key country, which is usually termed as, I guess, the Silicon Valley, West Africa, is Nigeria. What Nigeria has going for them, like Nigeria is like ahead in terms of like all the digital innovation that's happening out there in the world. And one of the things that they have going for them is the chip internet, right? So because of that, they're able to tap into a lot of innovation.
Something that is also very important, like we said, South Africa, Namibia is very close to South Africa. So I think something that was done in my country that worked very well is amazing infrastructure. And town planning is also very, very important, especially if you're in construction. And that is one thing that Namibia actually adopted, and I think most of the other countries can adopt. Because if you come to Namibia, there's a town and there's a suburb and then there's a rural area. Everything is not in one area, which is what I've seen in other African countries. But when it comes to electricity, I think what our country has also done is cooperated with parastatals and private sector, and of course with government together, where a private person will say, my company is going to be here and I'm going to make sure I have good tar road and I have good infrastructure, which then complements the city. So I think most other countries can also look at angles like that.
That's a very good point. Town planning is key, like you said, Helena. And if you see, the reason why we have many, many problems with roads is because we're building stuff on what we call floodplains. So as you know, water, when it comes to water and wind and fire, there's nothing that can stop them from moving, doing their natural course. So if you build in a floodplain, you always have the same water every single year. When it rains, it will come and destroy anything that's in its path. Now, there are solutions for this where you have drainage systems and other methods of taking the water from where it's supposed to go somewhere else. And then you could think of using that water for, toilets and other things, or maybe saving it for the dry season and maybe using it for agriculture. So as you can see, there's so many things that you can do if you plan properly. You could have a town or a city that's almost completely self-sufficient and sustainable, and all of the systems are run by the water and the wind and everything that's within the city, and the waste could provide energy as well.
It's very important that we plan ahead. As Africans, we always would, if you look at Gambia, like Amy was saying, you have all these $1 million homes, but there was no planning done ahead of time. And the way they even sell the plots or the land is absolutely ridiculous. You would think after years and years of poverty and problems with people fighting against each other for this land development, and it's not just in Gambia, even in Senegal, you have the same issue. You would think they will come up with a plan where you would have a city that's planned ahead, you build the roads, you build the infrastructure, come up with an idea of how, and then now sell the lots to other people, and then it will be controlled by what system in the government. But instead of that, you have or the Alcalo or the Seifo that will be selling the land, and then you decide to build a road within that planning is absolutely mind-boggling.
I think tough construction, they did a wonderful job with what you were just talking about, Dr. J, in Nigeria, because where
Absolutely.
right, because when you look at the finished product, what he started with, and the finished product is amazing, it's remarkable, and he has roads building and everything is properly done.
The main problem that I'm hearing here that we have is two things, is partnership, government having to agree with partnering with private companies or private individuals to create better infrastructure and just living conditions for its people, and just not trying to just take everything to themselves and thinking that they can do it. One is proper planning. If you look at Gambia, for example, again, the devil's advocate, there is just one road headed to the airport. To leave, my flight is at 10 p.m. at night. I have to leave my house at 5 p.m. to make it to the airport. Ridiculous, right? There is no proper planning around. There is no proper planning around the city. It feels, for me, when I look at the whole country, I feel like it just needs to be demolished and we start over.
I want all our viewers to please tag a Gambian architect, a quantity surveyor, an engineer. Please tag them below. Like, where are they?
Yeah, good point, Helena. And if you're watching, of course, make sure you write some of the things that you're thinking about is the best way forward for Africa. As we always say, it's not about what we say on the show, but also the whole community, the sister show community. So go ahead and comment below and let us know what you think is the way forward for Africa in terms of technology innovation.
Just to add to that, in terms of solutions, right? So one of the things, like, as I mentioned, Nigeria is kind of like leading in terms of technology innovation. But one of the things that can actually help is, like, Nigeria has a sizable, rich population, right? There's a lot of very, very wealthy people. So some of the things that can help is just like in the US, right? So some of those rich people can actually invest in some of these startup companies started by young people that do not have like much resources. So by collaborating with some of these rich, wealthy folks, that can actually like help move like the innovation in Africa like faster.
So it's like Amy said, partnership, right? From the wealthy to the youths to the government to set up this infrastructure to make it a lot easier and set up the pipelines to make this happen.
I think it's just about time for us, all the heads coming together as one, being in the government, the private individuals, the institutions that have already been there, and then the ones coming up, all coming together and having the countries and the countries or just Africa as a whole's like interest at heart, and just stop the fight against like this company against this company. I think it's about time for us to come together if we really want to see a developing Africa. We can do it. Like, it's there. We have the hands, we have the money. We can really do it. It's just about time for us to come together. Like Helen said, tag everyone. Let everyone come here, join forces, and take it on.
Issues that a lot of people face when they go to set up these companies, the pushbacks that they face from the government to be able to set up these institutions. I don't know if you guys see where I'm coming from, because it's almost like if you go to Africa and you have an idea and you go to one country, you need permits and you need all this documentation. Sometimes when you go, you have a lot of pushback from the government because they want a kickback in whatever you're doing. And where does that leave you? You know?
And how Africa is not moving forward because of the mindset of the people. If we start forgetting individuality and thinking about the masses as a whole, then we can move forward. Because the only reason why a lot of these companies are moving to Asia and not going to Africa is, number one, corruption. You have these governments that don't think about the long run. All they think about is the little cash that they can have now. And let's say, for example, you want to go to Africa to come up with a company. If you give $100,000 or $100,000, not even dollars, to the Minister of Infrastructure or whatever, you can get whatever you want. So if you want to invest $200,000, half of that is not going to go towards your company. It's going to go towards bribery, towards all this type of nonsense. At the end of the day, it will be much easier for you to move that company to Asia and do that same investment in Asia, because you would have, not only would you spend the money, but you will end up with a headache. And then later on, when the government changes, you have to do the same thing over again for the same people. So when people think about it, I don't think there's much critical thinking that's going on within our system of government. It's just mind-boggling that people are always me, 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 me. We need to change that mindset. We need to have people think about society as a whole, society in general.
Jay, I totally disagree with you. You're probably confused, right? Okay.
Yes, we're all confused.
Yeah.
You propose or you don't propose? Which one now?
No, I oppose. And I propose.
You oppose or you propose?
If you're watching, comment and tell us if Amy just also confused you, because I think she's even confused. But let's see what you gotta say, Amy.
And when I finish, you guys will probably agree. And I don't know about you guys, but I know also agree with me. Jay,
okay.
When you say we would leave and invest in Asia, you got it all wrong. Africa is being sold to Asia, right? There is no way I can go and do what Asians are doing in Africa in Asia. Right? So we're not, what end up happening is we give up the investment and we just come back to America and go back to our 9 to 5 and go back to our little investments that we have here. But what we're not going to do and agree on is going back and investing in Asia. No, we're not doing that. Africa and the African governments are selling Africa to Asia. And everybody is seeing that for very cheap. Me and you can have the same exact project plan, proposal, and money. But when I come and put it on the table as an African citizen, they'll give that contract to an Asian person before they give it to a Gambian citizen. We all saw a clear example of what happened between the Pristine and the Senelec issue. That's a clear example.